Sarah Ferguson is under serious pressure again, and this time it is not unfolding in a way that can be smoothed over with a quick interview or a carefully chosen public appearance. Because everything that has followed her for decades seems to be resurfacing at once. At 66, the former Duchess of York is dealing with financial strain that is playing out publicly, her name being pulled back into the Jeffrey Epstein story in specific and uncomfortable detail, and a long record of decisions that people are no longer willing to overlook in the way they once did. And the tone around her has shifted quite noticeably, because instead of asking how she will recover, people are now asking something much more blunt. What does she do when the pressure builds this far? When will she be held accountable? If you start with the finances, the situation becomes difficult to ignore. Not because of one failed business or a single bad year, but because of the number of ventures now being shut down or left to quietly disappear at the same time. Several companies connected to Sarah Ferguson have either been dissolved, marked for strike-off, or appear to have stopped trading altogether. And when you actually go through the names one by one, it paints a very clear picture. Planet Partners Productions Limited, Fergie's Farm Limited, Philanthropreneur Limited, Solar Moon Limited, La Luna Investments Limited, and S Phoenix Events Limited have all either been closed, flagged for removal, or left inactive. And these are not distant projects from another era. They are relatively recent ventures that were supposed to form part of her ongoing business presence. At the same time, Ginger and Moss, which is still trading and still publicly tied to her brand, is reportedly sitting in a significant deficit, with hundreds of thousands in liabilities, which means the one remaining operation is not exactly stable either. This is not unfamiliar territory for Sarah Ferguson, and that is where the criticism becomes sharper, because her financial difficulties are not new, and they have not followed a single isolated event. They have appeared repeatedly over the course of decades. There were reports of serious debt in the 1990s, business failures in the 2000s, and by 2009, one of her ventures had collapsed, leaving substantial unpaid liabilities. So by the time 2010 arrived, the pattern was already established. Then came the moment that still defines how many people view her. She was filmed in a sting operation, offering access to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor in exchange for money. And the footage was clear enough that there was no room for confusion or reinterpretation. Afterwards, she said she had been in a desperate financial situation. And while that may have explained her mindset at the time, it also reinforced the idea that when money becomes tight, her judgment does not always hold. Now, years later, similar warning signs are appearing again, and they are appearing all at once rather than gradually, which is why people are paying closer attention this time. Businesses are closing, debt is being reported, and the question of how she sustains her lifestyle is being asked again, not in a speculative way, but based on visible developments. At the same time, her name has been pulled back into the Epstein story, and this is where things become more uncomfortable, because the details being discussed are specific rather than vague. Recent document releases include reported email exchanges involving Sarah Ferguson and Jeffrey Epstein, and these are not distant references or second-hand mentions. They are direct communications. In one reported message from July 2009, she asks Epstein for his address and says she will be visiting with Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, even asking whether they will be having lunch, which gives the exchange a casual tone that has drawn attention. Another reported message, sent by Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, suggests that the visit took place, and the timing of that visit is part of what people are reacting to, because it came shortly after Epstein had been released from prison involving a conviction involving a minor. Then there is a 2011 exchange where she appears to congratulate him on the birth of a child and sends love, friendship, and congratulations, which again adds to the sense of familiarity in the relationship. What continues to draw attention is the nature of the contact itself. because it was repeated, and it remained friendly even after Epstein's conviction was widely known. There have also been reports that Epstein provided financial assistance to her at different points, including helping with debts and covering certain expenses. And while those details have been reported, rather than confirmed in full, they fit into a broader pattern that people are now revisiting. Alongside that, there has been visible fallout, and it has not been dramatic in the sense of public announcements, but it has been steady and noticeable if you follow closely. Her charity, Sarah's Trust, has been shut down. There have been reports of business opportunities falling through, and there has been a gradual distancing that can be seen in how she is spoken about and where she appears. Her living situation has also become less clear, because she is no longer based at Royal Lodge in the way she once was, and there have been reports of her spending time in different locations, including wellness retreats, without any confirmed long-term arrangement. At one point, there were claims she had moved in with Priscilla Presley, which had to be publicly denied, and while that may sound like a minor detail, it adds to the overall sense that things are unsettled rather than stable. Then there is her behaviour, which has always been part of the story, whether people chose to focus on it or not. Sarah Ferguson has tried to build a public image around being warm, open, and approachable. But alongside that, there has been a consistent record of decisions that have raised questions, from financial missteps to questionable associations, and moments that have undermined her credibility. Even within the Epstein-related emails, there are reported exchanges that have been described as inappropriate in tone, including a crude comment involving her daughter, which has resurfaced and added another layer to how she is being viewed now. When you put all of this together, it does not read as a single controversy that can be addressed and moved past. It reads as a record that is being revisited in full. Financial problems, past behaviour, public missteps, and ongoing scrutiny are all visible at the same time, rather than being separated by years as they were before. This explains why she has essentially vanished from the public eye. And then there is what she has said about herself, which is where the personal side of this becomes relevant without needing interpretation. She has spoken about struggling with mental health, about feeling shame, about internalizing criticism, and about going to what she described as dark places. And those are not comments made in passing. They have come up repeatedly in her interviews. Reports indicate her friends have been worried about her mental health, saying she is vulnerable, struggling with no permanent home. So when everything around her becomes unstable at the same time, those statements are part of the picture, whether she intends them to be or not. She is dealing with financial strain, renewed scrutiny, unresolved associations, and a reputation that continues to be questioned, all while having already described herself as someone who feels pressure intensely. And that is why the conversation has shifted. Not because of one new revelation, but because of everything happening at once. When people say she could expose royal skeletons, they are not pointing to a confirmed plan or a specific action. They are reacting to her position, which is unusual even by royal standards. She spent years inside the royal family, then years outside of it, and has remained close enough to understand how things work without being protected in the way senior members are. That kind of position means she has seen and heard more than most, and it also means she has carried that knowledge without always benefiting from the system it came from. She has never been someone who stays completely silent when under pressure, and that is something people remember. She has given interviews, written books, explained her actions, and attempted to reset her image more than once. And while those efforts have sometimes worked in the short term, they have not erased the underlying pattern. The difference now is that the situation is more compressed. The financial issues are current, the scrutiny is immediate, and the past is being revisited in detail rather than in passing. So the question is not complicated. What does she do next? Does she stay quiet and try to stabilize things behind the scenes? Or does she step forward again and attempt to explain, defend, or reshape how she is seen? Because if she does, it will not just involve her. It never has. Let me know what you think. Do you see this as another cycle repeating itself? Or do you think this time the situation is too serious to recover from in the same way? What is next for Sarah Ferguson? If you follow royal stories like this, subscribe, because this is still unfolding.